Welcome everybody to the GodCast. Today we'll be counting down the top 5 unexplained Bible facts that baffled experts. Number 5, Jeremiah chapter 1 and John chapter 1. John chapter 1 and Jeremiah chapter 1 are theologically interlocked. Jeremiah chapter 1 describes a being referred to as the Word of the Lord physically reaching out to touch Jeremiah, a prophetic figure whose eponymous book is the longest in the Bible. The Word of the Lord is also referred to simply as the Lord because in ancient Jewish thought, Yahweh was essentially two beings: the invisible Yahweh, who is omnipresent and sits on the throne in heaven, and the visible Yahweh, who occasionally appears on earth. The account in Jeremiah chapter 1 is fascinating because it details a verbal dialogue between Jeremiah, a mortal prophet, and the Word of God, being God in angelic form. Perhaps even more fascinating is the fact that biblical scholars have counted the Word of the Lord as a Christophany, or pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus in the Old Testament. John chapter 1 describes how the Word of God was with God from the beginning of creation, and describes how the Word of God is in fact God Himself. These passages, when put together, show how both the ancient Jewish people thought of God's ontology, or being, and how ancient Christians visualized Jesus' pre-incarnate mission. Number 4, Genesis chapter 14 and the Melchizedek appearance. Melchizedek is a fascinating and enigmatic figure mentioned by name in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. Scholars have in fact argued that Melchizedek is another Christophany, or pre-incarnate version of Jesus in the Old Testament, although this time not in the form of an angel, but rather in the form of a priest. Genesis chapter 14, verses 18 through 20 says, quote, "Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abraham, saying, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything." In order to unpack these verses, we need to know a little bit about the titles of Jesus in the Old Testament, at least by the Christian interpretation, and the New Testament. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6, at least by Christian interpretation, refers to the Messiah in the following way, quote, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Perhaps even clearer is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 16, which says, quote, "Now the Lord of peace himself given you peace always by all means. The Lord be with you all." End quote. If we go back to Genesis chapter 14, we read that Melchizedek is the king of Salem. However, Salem in the Hebrew is the word shalom, which translates to peace. Therefore, Melchizedek is cited as the king of peace, while Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6, at least by the Christian view, refers to Jesus as the Prince of Peace, and 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 14 refers to Jesus as the Lord of Peace. Perhaps even more convincing than this etymological connection is the iconic bread and wine reference. The Gospels and 1 Corinthians mention the Lord's Supper, also known as the Last Supper, depicting Jesus and the disciples partaking in bread and wine. Genesis chapter 14 interestingly includes that Melchizedek brought out bread and wine. Therefore, the two, Melchizedek and the incarnate Jesus, share at the very least a striking similarity. Number 3, Inclusio and Chiasmus. Inclusio and Chiasmus were literary techniques used in ancient Hellenistic biographies, such as the biography of the great Neoplatonic philosopher Plotinus by his successor Porphyry, or the Passing of Peregrinus, a satire by Lucian of Samosata, ridiculing a man who claimed to be a god in disguise. and then jumped into a fire at the Olympic Games. This text is historically significant for many reasons, including that it is the first time a pagan author mentioned Christians, albeit Lucian basically ridiculed the Christians, claiming that they were deceived. Now back to the Bible. The Gospels are built around a structure called Inclusio, with smaller instances of Inclusio called Chiasmus making up the various episodes in their chapters. What is Inclusio, you may ask? Well, it is a fascinating literary technique used to wrap a single sentence of text around each other in a mirror-like pattern. Take, for example, this diagram detailing John chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. We see here that at the beginning, we have A, then we have B, C, D, E, and F. Then we have E, D, C, B, and A. What basically happens here is John, or the author of this poem, which some scholars have argued it was actually a later addition to the text, but that's a whole other conversation for another time. What happened is the author here actually wants you to focus on that middle letter, that middle F in this case. We begin with A, the Word was with God, and then we end with the Son is at the Father's side. We begin with the role in creation, and we end with the role in recreation. We talk about salvation for humanity, then we talk about salvation for humanity again. There's the testimony of John. Oh, there's the testimony of John there. Then you have the Word of God enters the world, and then you have the Word becomes flesh. But around this, we have through the Word, by new birth and belief, we have become the children of God. There are many other examples we could point to, but that would be one of many. In fact, the entire Gospel of Mark and the entire Gospel of John, or at least its various portions, such as the Book of Signs and the Book of Glory, which are two divisions in the Gospel of John, all utilize inclusio. Number 2, Revelation chapter 12. And Jesus' birthday. This entire coincidence, or lack thereof, explained in much more detail in a video linked in the description, so feel free to check that out for yourselves, but here are, well, the bare-bone details of Revelation chapter 12's epic significance in biblical archaeology. Basically, the Qumran caves in Israel, likely inhabited by the monastic and communalist sectarian doomsday group called the Essenes, which Josephus wrote about, left behind quite a bit of archaeological treasures for both the studies of Second Temple Judaism and the cultural backdrop of early Christianity. Among these archaeological finds, not to mention a fragment detailing a crucified Messiah written about 100 years before Jesus was born, was, among these treasures, these archaeological finds, was an astrological chart depicting a time window for the arrival of the Messiah. This time window uniquely corresponded to the time during which Jesus was born. Revelation chapter 12 details a woman with agonizing birth pains who gives birth to a child. A dragon attempts to devour the child, but the child is swept up to God. Interestingly enough, ancient constellations correspond with each of these figures. The virgin about to give birth is Virgo, the dragon is Scorpio, and the child is Leo, corresponding with the Lion of Judah, a symbol for Jesus. The time at which all of these constellations aligned within the Qumran scrolls time frame was actually September 11th, Rosh Hashanah, 4 BC. Perhaps even more interesting is that Rosh Hashanah celebrates the coronation of the Davidic king, being the king descended from the line of David. Since Jesus in Christian thought is from the line of David, this makes perfect sense, and when coupled with all the data, could mean that the earliest Christians believed that Jesus was born on September 11th, 4 BC. Number 1, John chapter 18, verse 38, Anagram. Although originally written in Koine Greek, the Gospel of John contains a subtle and complex anagram derived from the Latin translation of Pilate's comment, in John chapter 18, verse 38. When Pilate is interrogating Jesus, he asks, "What is truth?" in a sarcastic manner. The phrase "what is truth," when translated into Latin, reads, "Quid est veritas?" This question is in fact an anagram that, when scrambled, reads, "Est vir qui adest," or "the man in front of you." This is undoubtedly a fascinating find, which is why it is at the top of our list for 5 unexplained Bible facts that baffled experts. Did you agree with this list? Comment down below. Did you find something new that you learned? Or do you want to show some support to the channel by subscribing or leaving a thumbs up? Well, that would be much appreciated. And furthermore, comment down below for what new videos you want to see next. That being said, I am Xavier, this has been the GodCast, and stay tuned.